Welcome back. In 1965, Ruth Fertel mortgaged her home and purchased a restaurant in Louisiana. She knew nothing about the restaurant industry, yet 50 years later, the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse brand can be found in 140 locations worldwide. But this story isn't about Ruth Fertel. It's about the seeds she planted those many years ago. Seeds of service and hospitality that, unbeknownst to her, would inspire one Atlanta woman to devote her life and career to serving others. Ed Baker talks food, fellowship, and service with a smile in today's Executive Profiles.
Okay, Nancy, I've been wanting to ask you this question for a really long time. Were you born with this smile? Were you, I mean, at 3 years old or 2 years old, did you have this wonderful smile?
I have had dimples forever. They've been always there. I always was told it took so many more muscles to frown than to smile, so why not just smile?
No, I'm with you. I was always curious. I've never asked you that question before. Born in New Orleans, raised in New Orleans, and then you go off to the University of Virginia, and I know it wasn't to learn how to make a great steak.
I applied early decision. When they had an early decision program and got in. It's the third year that women were at the university.
And you went to study what?
I wasn't really sure what I was going to study. I ended up declaring a university major, which was an interdisciplinary major, and studied communications.
So you graduate and you go back to New Orleans.
Go back to New Orleans, worked for the Times-Picayune States-Item newspaper. When I did graduate, I started in retail advertising. And I argued a case for one of my advertisers through many different levels, finally up to the publisher of the newspaper. And I didn't really think that they were getting a fair shake. So I argued the case to the publisher, and the publisher said, "We're the only game in town. We have the morning and evening paper, and this is the way we do it." And I decided that that wasn't the way I was going to do it. And I wanted to be in an industry that was a service industry. I thankfully was able to get an audience with Ella Brennan, the grande dame of service and hospitality.
Absolutely.
And I really was going to speak to her to find out what are the opportunities in the service business. After a conversation with her that went multiple hours, she said, "Why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "Well, what'll I do?" And she said, "I don't know, we'll figure it out." So I did. And I knew immediately that the service industry was where I needed to be. We are so privileged to be stewards of hospitality and to be part of special moments in people's lives, be it from a business meeting that needs to go perfectly or a social occasion that's a celebration. And I truly believe that hospitality, well served, has the capacity to multiply joy.
So you had the DNA, you had the incredible mentor working for really the company, and you were pretty much at Commander's Palace?
I was at Commander's Palace, and I met my husband, Mark, at Commander's.
What was Mark doing?
Mark was the back of the house manager. We actually worked together for almost a year before the two of us ever dated.
How do you get to Atlanta? Everything is your home. You're doing great. It's it.
Mark was sent to Brennan's of Houston, and he was there for a year, and he said, "Oh, I want to come back to New Orleans. I miss New Orleans." He thankfully missed me. And he says, "I want to come back to New Orleans." And she said, "But Mark, I don't have anything for you here. I'll help you with anything else." And she did, and he ended up in Atlanta.
So when did the entrepreneurial bug hit you?
Oh, it was there. It was always there, and it was always there for both Mark and myself. Interestingly, when we got into Ruth's Chris, because of a gentleman who we had worked with at Commander's in New Orleans, and he was at that point Vice President of Operations for Ruth's Chris. So we called him and said, "What are the possibilities of getting a Ruth's Chris franchise?" And he said, "None." But bizarre that you called, because the people, the franchisees in Atlanta, have opened one restaurant. They need some help and want to grow, but they need some help to do that. Let me put you all, the four of you, together. Ruth's Chris Atlanta Buckhead was the first restaurant. Our second restaurant was Ruth's Chris Birmingham, and it was in a hotel property. We were the first Ruth's Chris in a hotel, and it was An absolute home run. We have 10 Ruth's Chris restaurants in the southeast and contiguous states. 8 of them are in hotels. And it's been a wonderful formula and very successful. When we go into a hotel, we're the sole food service operator.
So Ruth gave you a big award a few years ago. Tell us about that award.
It was very humbling. The Ruth Fertel Award, which she gave to Mark, was given to us together, which was even more special. And the award is more endearing because it is given to someone who really has the hospitality legacy that she did. And it was a very special honor.
And I know that the give back part is a big deal for you. Talk about that for me.
It's very important. You know, one of our core values for Ruth's Chris is to give back. I've had the great privilege to be involved in the Georgia Restaurant Association, the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know, New Orleans is where I was born. New Orleans is where I was raised. I think something about being below sea level and that humidity seeps in your soul and never leaves you. But Atlanta is home.
You've had incredible success. What's the other aspect of the secret sauce of your success?
To have people who have a passion for the brand, like I have a passion for the brand. You know, I always feel, Ruth had a saying. Ruth said, do what you love and love what you do. And if you're passionate about what you do, it never feels like work.
I think it's a great place to stop. What a wonderful main course. Thank you for what you do for this community, and thank you for my taste buds.
Thank you, Ed, so much. I appreciate it. What a pleasure to be here.
One more smile.
In 2013, Nancy Oswald was named to Atlanta Business Chronicle's list of the 100 most influential Atlantans. In keeping with her grandparents' tradition of giving back, she currently serves on the board of the Giving Kitchen, an Atlanta nonprofit dedicated to providing hardship grants to the city's hospitality workers.